And welcome back to this Dialogue Web Extra. I'm Marcia Franklin. I'm talking with 5 different reporters from around Idaho about stories they've been covering, and now we're going to talk about some upcoming stories, stories to look forward to as we proceed through the next month. What will you be working on, Molly, for State Impact Idaho, which is a new project, a radio project that looks at economic issues in Idaho? What's next on your docket?
Economics and policy, yes. We're working a lot on context pieces, so I'll be looking at ongoing housing issues, for example. Affordable housing will be one issue I'll be looking at. I've been doing some reporting on the local refugee community. That's reporting that I'll be continuing. We're also interested in doing some more rural and agricultural stories so that we're getting out into the community, as you said.
So you'll be traveling around the state?
That is definitely an aim of the project, yes.
And how often do your pieces make it to National Public Radio as well?
We've had, I think, 3 so far air nationally since in the 4.5 months since we launched. So.
And is the idea with this State Impact Project that all states eventually will have a unit?
Exactly. Yeah. Over time, every state will have 2 reporters, a broadcast reporter and a digital reporter, both of whom are trained in radio. Emily Ritter-Saunders, my co-reporter, is a very able radio reporter as well. So yes, it will be a great asset to reporting, I think, nationally if that project unrolls as planned.
So more information on our website. We link to your website, or just type in State Impact Idaho.
Please do check it out.
Great. And Mark, I know one of the things we've got coming up here in the next week or so are the hearings on the F-35s coming to town. That promises to be a lively hearing.
Very lively.
Noisy, probably.
Especially with all of those members over at Hillcrest Country Club complaining about those noisy jets flying over them while they're putting for par. That is going to be a big issue, of course. Super Tuesday, as we were talking about, heavily focused on that and the process again. That is so new to this state. Of course, we saw the caucus work for the Democratic Party at now CenturyLink Arena some 4 years ago, and so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, having some basis with that. And then, of course, the John McGee story. Again, that's going to be, I'm sure Kevin realizes this as well, will be almost daily. Updates.
Do you think there'll be more allegations?
I don't know that there will be more allegations, but there will be new things that emerge from the investigation. There will be other things to explore and to look into. And look, this is something that isn't just on the surface, and there will be many layers to peel back on this. So, lots of news coming up in the next couple of weeks and months.
And of course, the legislature. You never want for news there, and.
Well, we'll be covering that, but aside from the reality show of the 2012 legislature, there will be two stories that I'll be watching pretty closely in the next couple of weeks, and they do tie sort of to the legislature. Both the filing period begins for
27th.
Candidates on Monday, so I'll be blogging that for 10 days, looking at who's running against who. We're starting to see some of that. We're starting to see some candidates announcing that they're hoping to move from the House to the Senate, or hoping to get into the legislature, some legislators who are planning to retire. So it'll be interesting to see how those races shake out, and that'll keep us busy for the next couple of weeks. Also in the Treasure Valley, you have 5 school levies coming up March 13th. The biggest districts in the state, Meridian, Boise, and Nampa, and you also have a couple of others in the Treasure Valley. It'll be very interesting to see the results of those, because in Boise and Meridian and Nampa, these would be property tax increases, so it's going to be a chance to see what the voter mood is about the economy, what the voter mood is about education funding, to an extent what voters feel about some of the education changes that are coming as a result of the Students Come First overhaul from last year. Those are going to be fascinating elections.
And Corey Tolley, speaking of elections coming up, the redistricting in your area has changed a lot of boundaries, has it not? And might be very confusing for people going to the polls in March on these school elections?
Yeah, it's a big deal because the Supreme Court boxed in the redistricting commission, and they can't split small counties. Counties that can be split, like Bonneville, really got split. So of our 51 voting precincts, I think 40 changed, and some pretty radically. So there's a lot of people who are going to be voting in new places next month, when we've got bond elections for our 2 big school districts here in Idaho Falls. They're in Bonneville County, Bonneville School District and Idaho Falls School District, and those are really important elections. You know, the bond in Idaho Falls is the 3rd time for this bond. It really needs to pass. And there's been a pretty big education effort. I've written about it, our paper's written about it, but there's no question that you're going to have people who show up on election day and get told, no, you got to go over here, or you got to go over there, and it's inevitable.
Speaking about school issues, Mike Patrick up in Coeur d'Alene, you've written about a very interesting issue to me, and your headline was Straightening Out the School Board. The paper discovered that there was a pattern on your school board of people leaving, resigning, so that their place could be taken over and over and over again, and then those people would easily get elected. And it has affected Wanda Quinn, who the paper endorsed and likes, and she has had to leave the school board because of a judicial decision about this problem.
Well, and we've discovered, Marcia, that we're not unique. As this coverage has gone on, we've heard from particularly California. This is a fairly commonplace practice where somebody knows that they aren't going to finish their term on a school board. They announce that they're going to resign or retire, and that way the remaining school board members are allowed to select somebody who, in this case, was like-minded. And with the Coeur d'Alene School District, 6 of the last 7 people who resigned, they did so prematurely so that their replacement could be selected. And a judge did see through that and said that's not the way it should be done.
So you're going to have another election then for that seat?
We are.
Okay. And on another educational issue up there, the president of North Idaho College is retiring, so that's a big slot to fill in a school that I have visited many times and is always jam-packed and expanding. I've been out to the new center in Post Falls, so whoever takes that leadership post will have has quite an institution to look over.
Well, and we're proud of our community college, but it's more than the president leaving right now, Marcia. In just the last 6 weeks or so, 2 of the top vice presidents have also accepted presidential jobs at other colleges. And one of those had only been here for about 2 years. He replaced somebody who became president of a community college in the Seattle area. So we have massive change at the top of our little community college.
Interesting. Corey, any other stories you're following over there in eastern Idaho? The wind power, I know, is one of them. The wind moratorium, you've written about that. And Eric Simpson, local lawmaker there, wanted to place a moratorium. You are not impressed with that, calling it extreme overkill. And acknowledging that there's some problems with wind, as we can see here in this quote, but that it's going too far to stop it.
I'm just fascinated by the new Republican Party. It's conservatism now is using government to shut down an industry, eviscerate local control, and strip property rights. It's fantastic. I imagine that'll be in the party platform this summer. It's just. What's amazing about this is you got people like Lenore Barrett and Cliff Bear to sign on to this, and it made it out of committee, which shouldn't surprise us because it got somehow magically assigned to local government where half the committee is co-sponsoring the bill. Last year it was in State Affairs. The bill originally, when it was printed, was moved over to the Environment Committee, but then it got printed again and left in local government. Might have something to do with the fact that Lawrence Denny's a co-speaker. I'm not sure. It's good to be king.
A co-sponsor?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I doubt it has legs in the Senate, but it's a really bad idea. I mean, essentially, we're going to shut this industry down for 2 years while we study to see what the problem is. It's overreaching the extreme. There's a lot of projects in the pipeline, a lot of people who are negotiating with companies right now. It's way too much.
That being said, it's fascinating for people to go over there and take a look at the bench right near the hill right near Idaho Falls and see how many turbines have gone up there in just a short period of time. It's very interesting to see the spread of this industry across Idaho. Back here in Boise, as we start to wrap up, need to ask you, Mark Johnson, since you followed the Broncos for so long, they're not going into the, first of all, my mind just cannot wrap around the geography of this team going into the Big East. I mean, we're not on in the East, so
Right.
that's one thing. But there was some thought that maybe they'd move as early as 2012, and that's not going to happen.
That is not going to happen. They couldn't find, they couldn't act quickly enough to get the other sports, Olympic sports, other people might call them the other minor sports, into another league in time.
talking about
couldn't move them into the
everything
WAC.
else.
Everything else other than football, because
Okay.
only football is moving into the Big East. But this is a fluid situation. I think all of Bronco Nation just needs to take a really big breath and say, okay, if this automatic qualifying is what the Holy Grail is all about, this was your only option. Everybody wanted to go to a league that had an AQ. They've got
Automatic
one now.
qualifying.
Automatic qualifying into the BCS. There you go. You're doing great.
I'm not a football person.
Here we are on Idaho Public Television talking about the Broncos. This is crazy. But it's going to be okay. I think it's all going to shake out. And who knows, 10 years from now, when Boise State is in the Pac-14, they'll be thinking about that 3-year window they were in the Big East and how crazy that was.
And in the meantime, the other sports will move to the WAC in
WAC.
due time, and the Broncos will be playing the fighting flagships of the University of Idaho. So it'll be great.
Well, Mike might have something to say about that. That's if the Vandals will allow their team to play only in Boise every year.
Mark, you've totally lost me. But you're both, I know the paper has taken a position. You are, in the end, supportive of the move. You
We were skeptical at first because the Big East, it didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. But when you look at what happened last year with the bowl
Yeah.
season, it changed my mind. It made me realize you really have to make this move. This
I
is the
just wonder, as
landscape.
if you're a parent of a kid or a teacher of one of these students, they're on the planes all the time now. They're going to have to travel so far. How are they going to stay
Yeah,
healthy?
the travel time doesn't really change that
Really?
much, though, Marcia.
Okay.
What's another 20 minutes to get to Rutgers, or what's another 30 minutes to get to Cincinnati? It really isn't going to change that much.
Interesting. And I just have to say one story that I will be watching, because I'm interested in both international affairs and our state and country, is the story of Bo Bergdahl. The Taliban has opened an office in Qatar to ostensibly negotiate, although it's not a country, to negotiate with other countries. And there is talk about a prisoner exchange between some prisoners in Guantanamo and Bo Bergdahl, who is from Haley, Idaho. So that's one story I know that I'm.
Yeah, it's hard to weed through all the minutia of this. When you say there is some talk,
Yep.
that's according to
We
a
don't even-
source who doesn't give any attribution to that. And so we really have to tread very lightly on this subject because it is so sensitive to our community. Sergeant Bo Bergdahl, it'll be 3 years this summer that he was taken, and the only known POW right now. And so, although there is reason to be optimistic, as you alluded to, it's tough to bridge all the way.
Well, just some of the stories that we're following around the state. I really want to thank all the reporters for being here and for staying for our Web Extra. You've been listening to a Dialogue Web Extra with 5 reporters from around the state: Kevin Richard, Mark Johnson, Molly Messick, Corey Tolley, and Mike Patrick. I'm Marcia Franklin. Thanks for tuning in.